Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome back to Intro to Spiritual Care. It's week 5, assessing and addressing 7 spiritual needs. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Renita Walker, also known as the Funky Chaplain. Indeed, the funkiest chaplain you know. If you've kept up with us for the last 4 weeks, this is what we've done so far. Week 1 was June 28th, and it was Spiritual Care 101. This is where we introduce the course and introduce some important terms you would need to know and define what I mean when I talk about spiritual care. Week 2 was July 12th. We talked about cultural competency and we talked about how to identify and address biases, all those things we bring with us in our backpack when we are trying to care for care seekers, and how to keep them from, y'all know I'm gonna keep saying this, don't hurt nobody. At the very least, don't hurt nobody. But how to keep them from getting in the way when you're providing care. Week 3 was July 19th. We talked about effective communication and communication as a bridge to emotional connection. We also talked about storytelling as a form of communication. Last week, was week 4, July 26th. We talked about honoring grief and acknowledging losses. And we talked about how grief work is communal work. And I had a special guest that helped me out. Also had a special guest for cultural competency. So if you missed any of those, please on YouTube, go to hashtag Rethink TV and you can go back and watch all of those and catch up, because we build on these concepts week to week. It's week 5 now, my friends. August 2nd, assessing and addressing 7 spiritual needs. We're going to explore how to identify, assess, and address. And this is critical because if we're providing spiritual care, we want to determine what that person actually needs. Right? All right. So let's go. Now, I'm going all the way back to our very first webinar together, where we talked about the difference between spirituality and religion, because I want to be clear that this is about spiritual care. So that means it can be provided to anyone, no matter what their religious preference is. And to do that, I just want to, just revisit this so that we're all on the same page. So spirituality, when we talk about spirituality, we're talking about a dimension of human experience that involves transcendent beliefs and values. And transcendent is what can be experienced outside of the physical realm. It's above me now, right? Where do I find meaning, connection, and value? Religion, on the other hand, is a little bit more narrow, and it's about an organized belief system. There are shared, institutionalized moral values and practices, generally involvement in a faith community, and for most, belief in God or some kind of higher power. And this is about what I believe to be right or true. So we want to stay in the spiritual care wheelhouse. Where do I find meaning, connection, and value? Because when people are coming to you and they are in crisis, they need care, they are seeking care. Generally speaking, they are being challenged in their meaning making. Their connection to God, self, and the other has been disrupted. And what they value is changing in light of their crisis. And remember, next week, we're going to do a values inventory. So this would be a good way to determine what you value, and align your care, your behaviors, your organizational plans and whatnot to what you value. All right. So let's go. Spiritual needs. I have done this 7 spiritual needs for a couple years now, and I like. There are a lot of different people have different ideas about what spiritual needs are. I like this list that comes from Howard Kleinbell, who has over 30 years of psychological counseling and pastoral care. So, number 1, healing and empowering love. And stick with me because it's going to sound, I got a lot of dictionary definitions in here because we need to be really clear. about what we're talking about. So, healing, what is healing? The process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. So, people that are seeking care are going to be coming to you in some kind of crisis where they are not healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy. And so, what they are going to be looking for, what is involved in healing? Empathy. If I want to be in the process of helping someone become sound and healthy again, I have to have empathy. I have to trust their experience as they have lived it and as they share it with me. I have to offer them acceptance and I have to validate their experience. That's what healing is. Empowering to make stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. Now, this is why it's important to look in your backpack and find out what you're carrying, because often, instead of encouraging people to control their own life and claim their rights, if you need to be an authority and you need to be someone that tells someone what to do, that is not what we mean by empowering. And you're going to make people dependent on you. And that's really not what we want. We're going to get to interdependency in a minute. But when we talk about empowering, we're talking about autonomy, the right or condition of self government. We are talking about believing that each person has the right or condition to govern themselves, to determine what they need and what they want for their lives. Agency, an individual's capacity to determine and make meaning the environment through purpose of consciousness and reflective and creative action. So all this means is you, the people that are coming to us for care, all of us have the right to govern ourselves and the agency, that is capacity to reflect on what our lives are and make meaning. Remember, we talked about meaning making. Sometimes things don't make sense. Lots of things don't make sense. And making sense doesn't do anything about the pain that is there. So it's a waste of energy. But meaning making, on the other hand, is the what now question, right? In light of what I have been through, what do I now want to do with this information? What do I want my life to be like going forward? Now, love. I thought about this in terms of spiritual care, and I'm a church kid. Uh, so I am familiar with, agape love and phileo love and eros love and all of those things. However, in this case, I think it's kind of important to come out of a biblical thought of what love is, because remember, everybody's not Christian, and to move into some psychological principles. So Carl Rogers is a psychologist, and he has this concept called unconditional positive regard, especially in the direction of the caregiver to the care seeker. And what unconditional positive regard means is that whoever steps before me, I see them as worthy of care. Whatever it is they have done, whatever it is, whatever life they have lived, I see them as worthy of care no matter what. And the reason that is the definition that I want to use for spiritual care is because there will be care seekers that have behaviors that may go against how you were raised, what your ideology is, what your religious beliefs are, and they are still worthy of your care. They're still worthy of your care. Now, again, remember, I'm a church kid. So I really do believe that the church has to be able to provide care to everyone around us, even if they're not our members and parishioners, because people deserve care. People deserve support. People deserve to have their spiritual needs met. And so this is number one. These are not in any particular order, just listed. And so unconditional positive regard. The whoever comes to me for care, I believe that they deserve healing and empowerment. And it's my job to walk with them and to help them find that in their life, no matter what they've done. No matter, they may be housing insecure, they may be dealing with addiction, they might be a felon. I don't, ain't no telling, you know what I mean? When people come to us to seek care, life happens to all of us, and some folks have had difficult lives. No matter what they have done, I have to believe that they deserve love, care, and support. All right. And it's a critical need to have someone believe that about you, that no matter what you've done, you deserve love and support. All right. So that's number one. Number two, now remember, transcendence is in our actual definition of spirituality a couple slides back. This is existence or experience beyond the normal or physical level. So this is interesting to me, that this is a spiritual need to experience things that you cannot explain exactly, right? So if you are religious, you might call this divine direction, where my grandfather used to say, I know in my knower. I don't have no physical proof of a thing, but I know it. Like, I know in my gut, in my knower, I know a thing. This is a spiritual need. We are unhealthy when we do not have instances where we can see that whatever is beyond or outside of our normal physical level is engaging with us some way. If you're not necessarily religious, or if you are, some people call this serendipity, the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. You're walking down the street, you find a $20 bill, and you're like, yes, 20. But you're not broke or anything. It's just fun to have it. And then you walk past someone that really does need it, that looks like maybe they haven't eaten for the day, looks like they are probably dealing with insecure housing and food. And you're right in the right place to give them that $20 you just found on the ground. And when you found the 20, wasn't nobody standing there. So it ain't like you stole it from somebody. You know what I mean? But serendipity, things just kind of falling into place in a beneficial way. And you're like, well, that was nice. That was nice. Synchronicity can also be called that, the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. And I'm going to say this. When we say discernible, I think we have to stay with this original definition, beyond the normal or physical level, because my spirit may be able to discern what's going on. So I've told y'all this before. This happens to me at the hospital a lot. I do things in a particular way so that I don't forget anything, and it just helps my brain to have that order. And then sometimes something will say to me, we'll do this first. And even though I know it feels like it's going to just really mess up my day, one thing I'm good at is being obedient to the spirit or whatever that is moving in me, that is telling me to do something. And I'll go do it. And the staff will say, "Who? Oh, did they call you?" Nah, nobody called me. Nobody told me anything. Synchronicity, being at the right place at the right time. This is a spiritual need. We need instances like this where, those of us that believe in God, that we can see God working throughout our lives with things that just don't have any physical explanation. It ain't something you can have some physical proof of, but you know it, right? All right. Vital beliefs. Vital, absolutely necessary or important, essential, indispensable to the continuance of life. This is the one that I love. And all of these definitions come from the Oxford English Dictionary. This is the one that I love. Full of energy, lively. So sometimes, and I've been a chaplain for 12 years, so I have walked with a lot of people through a lot of very difficult times. And sometimes what people find in crisis is that they have a set of beliefs, but that they're not vital. They're not life-giving. They're not full of energy. They're oppressive. And they're struggling with those beliefs now because they are seeing their life turn out differently than perhaps what they've been taught or led to believe. And listen, if beliefs don't pan out in experience, something is wrong, right? Something's wrong. You got to question that belief. You got to explore that belief. Beliefs in life, actuality should match up. And so, if you have beliefs that are not full of energy and lively, when you meet up with a crisis, they are not going to be able to support you during that crisis because the crisis is draining the life out of you in the first place. And then you have these beliefs that are oppressive and burdensome instead of full of energy and lively. Beliefs and acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists, trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something. These are religious beliefs. These are morality, moral rules. These are cultural norms, but they should be full of energy and life giving. And if they're not, often the crisis will actually lead us to exploring those beliefs and kind of decolonizing, deconstructing, and rebuilding beliefs that are life giving. That's why, can you see why a crisis is so difficult for people? Because these beliefs that they've had for a long time, sometimes now they have to deconstruct them because they're not true. They're not true, or they're so oppressive that they're hard to live with. They're hard to live with, and their illness or whatever their crisis is heavy enough. So then to put some oppressive beliefs on top of it, mm-mm. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. And this is a spiritual need to have beliefs that are indispensable, that are essential, that give us energy. Like, has anyone ever heard that before? Yes, people are going to be questioning their beliefs during crisis. And you can question your beliefs at any time, but let me tell you, crisis gives you a big opportunity to do so. And that's just life, you know? All right, let's move on because we're gonna do a vignette at the end where we go back and pick up our case study and walk through these spiritual needs. It's gonna be a good time. All right, number 4, values, priorities, purpose. Values, a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. And remember, next week we're going to have a values inventory because I would love for y'all to know what your values are before you get in a crisis. And then the crisis forces you to determine what your values are. But it's important to have principles or standards of behavior. So when I am not the funky chaplain, I am either having fun with my fashion line or I am performing as Yaya, the intergalactic sojourner truth. And there's a song that I wrote that says basically determine who you want to be and live in integrity. Because let me tell you something, when you are living in integrity, you can stand straight and tall and it really don't matter what come at you because you know what you're going to do in every situation. You can be elevated and you know how you're going to act. You actually may be demoted depending on what life happens to you, but you know how you're going to act in certain situations. And so sometimes doors will open before you that you never expected because you have already worked out your integrity, your values, your principle, your standards of behavior, so that now you know you can handle this particular thing. One's judgment of what is important in life. Listen, our values are going to hopefully guide our life decisions. If honesty is important to me, then that's how I'm going to live my life. And a lot of people know me. I tell the truth. Sometimes it hurts and I don't intend it to. And I tell the truth. I tell the truth and I do it in love. I don't do it to harm people, but I'm not a person that can sit around and watch something and lie about it. I just can't do it. And that shakes people up sometimes, but I'm a truth teller. That's what's important to me in life is honesty and integrity. Priorities, the factor condition of being regarded or treated as more important. Now, our values and our purpose, let's jump to purpose, the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. Now, that's a dictionary definition. That is not any kind of religious definition, but I do believe with my church kid soul that I was created for a specific purpose, that there is something in this world that is at the intersection of my life experiences, my professional training, and my gifts and purpose that's for me to do in this world. And only I can do it. Doesn't mean someone else doesn't have a similar, but only I can do what I'm here to do because I'm the only me that exists. I'm the funkiest chaplain, right? Only I can do what I'm here to do. And so values and a sense of purpose, what's important to me, my principles, my standards, and the reason I believe I was created, the reason I believe I exist, the reason, whatever it is that I believe I'm supposed to bring to the world, this is what is going to help determine my priorities. So you can see why this is a spiritual need. Otherwise, I'm just kind of letting life push me, letting the winds of life just kind of push me along with no kind of direction, with no kind of stability, because I don't know what I value. I don't know why I'm here. I'm not searching to try to figure that out. And I don't really have any priorities. I just go as life pushes me along. But these things are important to a healthy spiritual life. All right, let's go to number 5. Inner wisdom and creativity. And I'm going to get on my soapbox on this one. So let me get through these definitions so I could go there. Wisdom, the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Experience, knowledge, and good judgment, the quality of being wise. Wisdom is the practical applications of the lessons you have learned in life's journey. Because here's the thing, if you have experience and you have knowledge and you don't have good judgment, my granddad used to say, ain't no fool like an old fool. If you have lived a long time and had a tons of experience and knowledge and you still don't have good judgment, that's not good. That's not good. Being able to apply those lessons is wisdom, and it'll keep you from falling in the same hole in your journey over and over again when you have good judgment and you are using your experience and your knowledge to make decisions that are good for your life, that are healthy. Creativity, the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. I believe that everyone is creative in their own way. Creativity looks very different, right? So I don't expect Neil deGrasse Tyson to put on a tutu and be a ballet dancer, but Neil deGrasse Tyson is creative in the way that he envisions the universe and talks about it. And it's a very nerdy creativity, right? It's science. I love it though. But we all have creativity. It's part of being human. It's part of being human. We have creativity. Now, here's my soapbox. Often, when care seekers come to us for care, we've got biases that we maybe have not engaged. So I'm a caregiver. I have multiple master's degrees. I have had pretty good judgment throughout my lives. I have had pretty good, lots of access to things that a lot of people may not have had access to. I grew up in the suburbs. Going to college was a given. So I've had access in a lot of ways that a lot of people have not. Well, I engage with care seekers who perhaps did not have the same kind of access, perhaps have made some difficult decisions in their lives, and may find themselves fighting substance use, may find themselves really critically ill with mental health issues. And if I'm not careful, I might think that these people don't have any wisdom. But the thing is, I cannot judge a person's wisdom by a snapshot of their life, by looking at them in crisis, because that really is kind of the worst time of their life. And so I don't know what their judgment has been like before they meet me or what it'll be like after they leave, my presence and my care. And so I have to trust that they have experience and knowledge, and somewhere in their life they have made some good judgment somewhere, or most likely they wouldn't even be alive. Okay, because some folks that I'm meeting, people that are housing insecure, that are living on the street, they have to have some street smart to live out there. And listen, your book knowledge is not the same thing as street smarts and experience. Street smarts and experience, like experience, is critical. And so, as a caregiver, I have to trust that the folks that I am meeting with have some inner wisdom. I gotta believe that. Because if not, then I become some guru trying to give them something, trying to teach them something, instead of being a companion who is walking with them along this road. I ain't no guru, okay? I'm trying to keep my own life in order. And that's giving me a whole lot of I'm bobbing and weaving, my friends. I'm bobbing and weaving. So I'm not an expert in anything. The care seeker that I see is an expert on themselves. They know themselves better than I'm ever going to know them for the time that I'm with them. And I have to trust that they have inner wisdom and creativity. Now, the key for me as a spiritual caregiver is to point them to their own wisdom, because their ability to see their own inner wisdom and creativity is a spiritual need. We have to believe that we have inner wisdom, that we have something to give, that we have wisdom to give to the world that we can share because of our unique experience, because of our training, because of our knowledge. And that, listen, I may not have good judgment about everything, but I know a thing about a thing or two. So it's a spiritual need to trust my inner wisdom, to believe when I hear my gut, when I hear the spirit within me, to believe that I have wisdom that I can use for good judgment, and to believe that I am creative. And now, even though this says especially in the production of an artistic work, I think we don't even need that part in particular, because sometimes when people are problem solving with their own issues, you got to be creative. Some of the things that you've tried maybe are not going to work, and you got to come up with creative solutions for problems that are in your way. And if we trust that people have creativity, then we can walk with them as they creatively explore things that will work for them, because they know themselves. So remember, you got to check your bias. It's really hard to provide compassionate care to people that you think you are better than. Nobody's better than anybody. Doesn't matter what decisions you made in your life, what degrees we have. We're not better than anyone. We maybe had more access. We maybe made different decisions at a particular time. That doesn't make us better than anyone. We got to remember that we are all on the same level. We all have inner wisdom and creativity, and it is a critical spiritual need to be able to recognize that and trust that in each of us. Okay? Let's go to number 6. Interdependence. The dependence of two or more people or things on each other. So, first, let's say that all of creation is interdependent ecologically. And this is how we are destroying the planet right now, because we're all interdependent. We can't, you know, uh, do what we want to do and then expect that the earth is just going to keep doing what it does. We're literally killing it and destroying it. And I probably done got in trouble a couple times during this series anyway. So listen, I told y'all I'm a truth teller. It is what it is. I don't mean to make folks mad, but it's colonization. The thought that we can colonize and do whatever we want with the resources and people in certain places, and that it will not affect us. And this is why, if anyone is left in bondage, ain't nobody free till everybody's free, because we are all interdependent. Healthy community is interdependent. Now, many of us have been in community that is not healthy. What do we do about that? Well, boundaries, 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 boundaries prevent codependence. Codependence is characterized by excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of illness or addiction. One of the ways I've heard boundaries talked about is knowing where I end and you begin. So we're talking about interdependence, where the give and take, there's some equity in give and take. There's some equity in how we are learning and growing together. I'm giving, you're giving. Codependence is when one person is giving, 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 the other person is taking, 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 taking. And codependence can also be characterized by this statement: if you're okay, I'm okay. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. That's codependence. I can be interdependent with someone, and when they're not okay, I can still be okay because I'm not them. I'm not them. And this is what helps me provide care in rooms. We are interdependent. But if I'm in a room with a family who has a sick loved one, I can't be on the floor messed up as much as they are. That's not going to help. That's not going to help. I have to know where I end and they begin. And they begin, and I have boundaries around my role as a chaplain. For instance, when I'm at work, my responsibility to those care seekers is while they are in the building and where I am in the building. I'm not giving them my personal phone number so they can call me at home. And so, again, I'm a preacher's kid. My I've been a preacher's kid since I was born. So I have seen what happens when community does not have healthy boundaries, when pastors are expected to be on call forever and ever. Amen. They never have a personal life. Their families are in shambles because they are giving everything they can to the church, and the church is demanding it. It's codependence. It's codependence. So interdependence is our spiritual need, to have healthy relationship, healthy community where we are being fed and we are sharing with the community. Boundaries, 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 boundaries. We got to have healthy boundaries. So for instance, if you have an organization and you require your volunteers to do just all kinds of stuff, like, okay, you have service on Wednesday and you expect them to be there an hour before service and stay an hour after service, and then you have another meeting on Friday and you expect them to be there for that in 2 hours, and then you have Sunday and you expect them to be there all day, and then you have training on Monday. That's not interdependent. That's not interdependent. That is an exploitation of free labor. If you expect someone to do all that, the boundary around their activity is a paycheck because they're an employee now. And so this is how we can get in trouble in community when our expectations are not for interdependence. So we got to be careful. The spiritual need is for interdependence, healthy community with healthy boundaries where we are giving and we are receiving in a healthy way. There's no exploitation, there's no abuse. That's a spiritual need. And so, if we're wondering perhaps why a lot of folks are struggling with their spiritual health, is because a lot of our organizations, I mean, capitalism don't care nothing about healthy boundaries. And one of the biggest places that a lot of us are going and having to be in community is on our jobs. They don't care about your boundaries. They don't care about your health. They don't care about your time. They expect you to go above and beyond without giving you anything in return. And so then when our spiritual communities look the same as our capitalist overseers, that's a problem. That's a problem. I feel like I'm getting in trouble tonight. I feel like I'm getting in trouble tonight. Getting hot in here. But it's true. It's true. And so if we expect to meet the spiritual needs of our communities, and we expect to meet the spiritual needs of parishioners that or volunteers in nonprofit agencies, we've got to have communities that are interdependent and healthy and have healthy boundaries to prevent exploitation of labor. All right. Woo! Let's see if I get in trouble on this last one. I don't know. We're gonna find out. Okay, one of the final spiritual need, we need spiritual resources. We need spiritual resources, practices, beliefs, objects, relationships that we can turn to for help and support in times of crisis or concern. Now, remember, we are looking at spirituality, not religion. And so, spiritual resources actually encompass a broad number of things that you might not even be thinking about. Music is a spiritual resource. I'm going to add dance right there. Music and dance. Listen, have you ever been feeling down and you turned up the music and you had a Soul Train line in your living room? It will change your life. It will change your life. It will help you feel better, right? If you're in crisis and you just dance it out, it'll change your mood. It'll change your mood. Music and dance. Meditation. Meditation is spiritual, not necessarily religious, because you don't have to be of any particular religious persuasion to practice meditation, which is the settling of your anxious mind. You can be any religion. Family and friends. Do you have external support that you can turn to when you are in crisis? Religious resources. You see, religious resources are different, are is a part of spiritual resources. Remember, religion is smaller. So this is a little bit more confined. This is religious leaders, communities, practices, and items. So items could be a Bible, items could be prayer shawls, depending on folks' religious preferences, phylacteries, prayer rugs, head coverings. Um, Religious practices could be prayer, could be sacraments. Our When we work in hospital, often our Catholic patients really appreciate seeing a priest at that time so that they can have some of the anointing of the sick, some of the Catholic sacraments that have been important to them, throughout their religious background. But it is going to be specific, to whoever I'm talking to, what communities, practices, items that person is going to turn to in times of crisis or concern. And then also remember that even if a person and I are from the same religious background, we may have different religious resources. So this is why walking with someone and helping them explore all of these things that we're talking about is important, because what they have inner wisdom about themselves. I'm not a guru, trying to give and teach them things about, sometimes teaching happens, but really I am walking with them. I am a companion, helping them return to their own resources in time of crisis and need. Exercise, we talked about that when I talked about music and dance. Exercise, listen, has saved my sanity more than once, more than once. And yeah. Yeah, exercise has saved me more than one time when I really felt like I was gonna crack up. I was like, let me move. Let me move my body and do some exercise here. Nature has been the same for me. Gotta get that vitamin D. It's super important. Go outside, get some sunlight, be in nature, connect with the earth, ground yourself, take off your shoes, stand in the grass, ground yourself with the earth. It's important. Other community support. These can be like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, brunch groups, travel groups, group exercise. And listen, remember, we are exploring with the care seeker what's important to them. So if I have a care seeker that says, man, I go to brunch once a month with my friends, with the fellas, and I just really, I don't want to miss that. Then that's something that has become a form of community support for them. And that's important. And I'm going to point that out like, okay, it sounds like your brunch group is a resource for you when you're in crisis or when you have concerns. And they'll be like, yeah, actually it is. So, be creative. We just talked about creativity on the last slide. People can be creative when they think about the practices and beliefs and objects and or relationships that they turn to for help in times of crisis or concern. I don't know what made me leave this off of here. Pets. Pets are relationships that so many people turn to for comfort and support, because animals are just intuitive and healing. They know things, don't they? They know, animals know when you're feeling bad. They know when you need some care. Animals are awesome. Animals can be counted in the relationships with the family and friends. Animals are in there because animals are super important for some people. And it's the reason why, when folks have, when their pets die, it is a crisis for them because they have lost a spiritual resource. They have lost an important relationship that they've turned to for help. And so, be careful. Like, don't be flippant about people's relationships with their pets. Like, it's sometimes fun to joke about it a little bit, but like, people's pets are super important to them. They become family members and friends. And when they die, man, it really can be a crisis for someone. So, walking with a person as they determine what resources are important for them. That's where we want to be instead of telling people what's important. Um, Often, when especially Christian folks, when we enter training to be chaplains, our first resource is prayer. We're going to pray for everybody. Well, that is what I want to do because I'm uncomfortable with what's going on in the room often. I have some discomfort with someone that's maybe questioning God, with someone that's maybe wrestling with their theology, with someone that maybe is displaying some anger, and I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to pray. But what if prayer is not a critical resource for the person I'm talking to? Or what if that's not just, they don't need that right now? They know how to pray, or maybe they don't even want to pray. They mad. They don't even want to talk to God right now. They hot. You know what I mean? And so we have to be able to explore with people which of these resources are going to be important for them. Now, certainly we are going to use our wisdom and we're going to look at some things that we see. And then remember, I told you, when in doubt, check it out. So I can think this is what's going on with a person, and then I need to check it out with them to be sure because my intuition isn't always right. My assessment isn't always right. But if I'm checking it with them, then I know I'm in the right place. All right. So let us get to our vignette. I love a good vignette. This is the same one we did a couple weeks ago. Lisa, remember Lisa, a 50-year-old Black woman from the southern region of the United States. She's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression after a mental health breakdown following a divorce and the loss of her career due to chronic health issues. She stated, I used to have a lot of friends at church, but since COVID and my divorce, people don't seem to talk to me like they used to. She is seeking spiritual care because she doesn't understand why God would allow these things to happen to her. She has a history of religious activity since childhood and stated, I did everything I was supposed to do. I prayed, I went to church, I read my Bible, I tithed faithfully. I didn't have any babies out of wedlock. I don't smoke, I don't drink. I followed all the rules. Why is this happening to me? All right, so let's try to assess Lisa's spiritual needs. All right. So she's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. She had a mental health breakdown. She had a divorce. She lost her career. She has chronic health issues. Now, she says, I used to have a lot of friends at church, but since COVID and my divorce, people don't seem to talk to me like they used to. One of her spiritual needs, can you see how interdependence is going to be one of her spiritual needs? She had, it seems like, some interdependent relationships. She was married. She had some relationships with some church members that she seemed to, feel like she felt like she had a lot of friends. But then, COVID, people stopped being able to get together in community. And so probably interdependence is going to be a spiritual need for her that is not getting met at this time, right? So we can identify that. We can assess, it doesn't look like it's getting met at this time. And how are we going to address it? Well, we did a plan the last time we talked with her. And one of the ways you address this is through engaging her in the present moment so that you are helping her find her inner wisdom and creativity, because remember, codependence is about all of us being healthy, walking together. So we're looking at maybe connecting her with some groups, maybe talking to some of the groups at the church that she was a part of, and determining what happened to those relationships and those connections. But interdependence is going to be where she seems to be lacking right now, and we're going to think about how we can address that with her, what she thinks she needs in terms of interdependence, and then what we can give to support. Spiritual resources. It seems like she has a lot of spiritual resources, but it seems like they are in conflict with her vital beliefs. Can you understand that? Look at this. I prayed, I went to church, I read my Bible, I tithed, I followed the rules. So it seems like she has a lot of religious activity, but something about how she is practicing them, it doesn't line up with her vital beliefs. Her beliefs are that if she did, they're oppressive. If she did all of these things, life would not happen to her. So she's got beliefs, but they're not vital, because that's just not true. You can do everything right and life will knock you to your knees. You can do everything right. You can just follow all the rules. Just do everything you think you're supposed to do, be the best person in the world, and life will still knock the air out your gut. It'll gut punch you. That's life. And so can you see how her beliefs are not life-giving? And so I might explore with her, because as a chaplain, if this person is inpatient, I'm going to try to see her a couple times before she leaves the hospital to give her support. But if this is a person that is in your congregation, or regularly comes to your nonprofit agency, then you're going to be developing a long-term relationship with her, where you can take time and walk through these issues. I would want to engage with her about her beliefs, and to see how she sees them, and how maybe they are oppressive instead of life-giving. She hasn't done anything maybe that she wanted to do because she felt oppressed and constrained by these beliefs, and now life is still knocking her out. Divorce, anxiety, depression, loss of career, chronic health. This is a lot. This is a lot. Transcendence. Can you see how transcendence is going to be an issue for her? She is not understanding why God would allow these things to happen to her. And that's a belief system thing as well. But it doesn't seem like maybe she's experiencing those kinds of situations that are just, beyond understanding. She doesn't seem to understand a lot. I think, honestly, I think interdependence is going to be the top need for her, because I think we can get through anything together. I think we can get through anything together. And so, probably my number one goal for her is going to get her into an interdependent community, so that she's got support while she walks through these difficult issues. This is a lot of grief. This is a lot of grief. This is a lot of grief. Healing, empowering love. As much as I can, I am going to be an example to her of healing, empowering love. I don't, even if, listen, I grew up in a church where divorce was sin for a very long time. So even if I believe divorce is sin, I'm going to give her this healing, empowering love. Remember Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard. I don't care how I feel about divorce. That is not relevant in my care to Lisa. I have to know what my bias is. I have to put that in my backpack and leave it there and go to therapy and unpack it somewhere there. But Lisa don't need the unpacking of my theology about divorce. Lisa needs my belief that no matter what she's done, no matter what she's going through, that she deserves care and support. Judging her is not going to help her at this point. And that just shows where I am. It doesn't have anything to do with her. My judgment, I have to remain a non-judgmental presence. That's a phrase that we use in chaplaincy all the time. Non-judgmental presence. I'm going to give supportive presence, and I'm going to leave my judgment at the door, because she's already in crisis. She doesn't need my condemnation. All right. So I think interdependence and perhaps helping her use her inner wisdom and creativity to engage some more spiritual resources, because the ones that she has been using don't seem to be life giving for her. So, how can I help her explore spiritual resources that are actually going to help her? I may talk to her about exercise. I may talk to her about nature. I may explore with her, has she ever had a time? And sometimes when you're exploring, you're just asking from your own, like your wisdom counts here too. So from my own experiences with anxiety and depression, I know if I can get outside and get some sunlight, it's helpful. So I may ask her, do you enjoy being outdoors? Do you enjoy being in nature? What things do you do that help you care for yourself, that help you feel connected and alive? I'm going to ask about that so that I can figure out how to get her connected to spiritual resources that are going to be important for her. Y'all understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? And so when I'm identifying, I'm looking at her story and I'm looking at what she's telling me and I'm figuring out what needs she has. And I'm trying to help her explore how to meet these needs, right? If I know that she needs interdependent community, I may say, okay, tell me about other members of your support system, because right now we're talking about divorce, so she doesn't have that spouse anymore. We're talking about the friends at church, so she doesn't have them. And because those things hurt, they're really loud. But I may say, so, tell me about the rest of your support system. If you were in trouble, who would you call? And she might say, my sister, I can always call my sister. Okay. So now I'm helping her find these spiritual resources that, because this pain is so loud, she's not able to explore that by herself. I'm just helping her. I'm just helping her. So I may find out what her other interdependent community is. Well, I do go to a chronic health support group. All right, that's amazing. How do you feel about that group? How is it helping you? So I'm simply exploring. Once I've identified where I think her needs are, I'm exploring with her how she can meet those needs. I'm helping her use her inner wisdom and creativity to to explore her resources so that she can think about how to meet these needs. Because remember, when I leave her, I don't want her dependent on me, because I'm not going to be there later. I want to help her learn how to care for herself. I want to give her the tools so that she can see what her needs are. And I explore with her how to use her inner wisdom and creativity so that when I'm gone, she already trusts, right? I've helped her trust her inner wisdom so that she can learn how to do some problem solving for her own spiritual care. I want to teach people, what's the thing? Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime, that kind of thing. And I actually believe both. I'm gonna give a fish and I teach you to fish, because you can't listen to me if you're hungry anyway. So I'm gonna give fish and then I'm gonna teach you this, right? So I'm gonna give this care and then I'm gonna teach how to care as well. I'm gonna teach you how to care for your you some tips of the trade, so that you know how to care for yourself once I am gone. And that's really the goal of being a caregiver, is giving people the tools so that they can care for their own spiritual health, right? In the same way I would if we were talking about physical health. If you need exercise, I mean, I can walk with you. We can schedule and I'll walk with you on Mondays, or my sister and I, we were walking like 2-3 times a week because we both knew we needed to walk and it was hard to get motivated, so we would walk together. Excuse me, but as my grandfather would say, I'm not carrying anybody on my back. So I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to help you learn how to do these things as a care seeker, help you learn, give you the tools that you need to care for yourself spiritually. And that's why I'm there. And think about it. If you are a pastor with it doesn't even have to be a large congregation to get unwieldy, but if you are a pastor or a leader, you have to teach your parishioners how to care for themselves, because there's only one you. and there's several of them. So you want to give them the tools to be able to begin to provide spiritual care for themselves so that you are kind of leading apprenticeships, right? You're teaching them what you know so that they can care for themselves instead of having them be dependent on us as caregivers. And then we're burnt out because we're doing more than we're supposed to be doing anyway. I'm a companion along the road. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun. I had a good time with this little vignette. It's going to come back again before we get done, but this really is the best way to apply some of the principles that we're using and that we're learning because it's not real until you use it in somebody's life. And it's super important for honestly for caregivers for us to know these things for ourselves because I can't take anybody anywhere that I'm unwilling to go in my own life. So if I haven't determined my own values, priorities, and purpose, how am I helping somebody else do that when I don't know my own? So this is, the training that I'm doing is for us first. Everybody should be able to evaluate and meet their own spiritual needs. And once we learn how to do that, then we walk with others as they learn how to evaluate and meet their spiritual needs as well. Well, my friends, that is it for this evening. If you are asking, where can I learn more? Make sure that you go back and watch the 1 through 4 webinar episodes on YouTube at hashtag Rethink TV, at Rethinking Church Strategies on Facebook. And you can work with me individually and or plan a seminar or workshop for leaders, volunteers, and stakeholders. Get in touch with me on my website. That is renitawalker.com. As always, it has been a pleasure. Meet us back here next week, same time, same bat channel, and we are going to do a values inventory. And I'm telling you, knowing your values and prioritizing your values will absolutely help you streamline your decision making and help you guide your life and live out your purpose. So I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.